Thunder at the Glen Race Week coverage continues tonight, where campers are all settled in at WGI for a weekend full of racing, fun, friends, and memories.
Well, she sure knows how to make a weekend of fun, friends, and memories sound like a tax audit. What else is on?
The world's smallest diner is in Watkins Glen.
Ah, now that's more like it. Nothing screams peak American culture like a roadside diner. After sampling the finest delicacies, it's time to burn off those calories with some racing at the Glen. This place is legendary, a real gem of a racetrack. But to go fast, you gotta know your way around. So let me show you the ropes. We start at the start-finish line. What a shocker! The first turn, the 90, comes up fast. Here's the trick. You can go wide, just don't let the stewards catch you with all four wheels off the curb. A clean exit here is key, because the S's, turns 2, 3 and 4 are flat out and all about speed. At the end of the straight, we hit the bus stop. And just like the ones in your neighborhood, it's usually a little chaotic. Slow down enough on the entry so that you can nail the exit. Clip that last curb too wide and you'll end up booking a flight. No frequent flyer miles included. Next up is turn 5, also known as the carousel. It's a wide radius turn, where sometimes all you need is love. All you need is a downshift. Maybe a tiny tap on the brakes if you're feeling fancy. From there, we barrel downhill into the boot section. A fairly wide turn 6 and an uphill turn 7 both require a fairly late apex, I have found. Up next, turns 8 and 9 are deceptively tricky, especially when it comes to finding grip on the exit. Turn 10 just needs a gentle dab on the brakes to carry speed through, and finally turn 11. If you've been good, it's a straightforward 90-degree corner. If you've been naughty, well, the pit entry is conveniently located on the right. And there we have it. Our track map now looks like the scribbles of a deranged cartographer. So I would say, we're ready. Time to get out there and get our hands dirty. We're starting race 1 in P1. What a dream! But dreams have a funny way of turning into nightmares. As the lights go green at Watkins Glen, reality slaps us across the face. The stewards award us with a drive-through penalty right off the bat. Lesson learned: be in your freaking spot for the start. The BMW in P2 gets a lightning launch and breezes past us on the outside of turn 1. Meanwhile, we are busy mentally drafting an apology letter to our pit crew. By the end of the lap, we sheepishly dive into the pits to serve our penalty, enduring what feels like the longest drive of shame ever. As we rejoin the track, another Mercedes limps into the pits after a first lap bus stop catastrophe. Too many cars, not enough space. It's physics, people. Now, it's a recovery race. Time to channel our inner underdog and claw back some positions. Lap 3, we catch the field. Our first victim, a Porsche. We stalk them through turns 8, 9 and 10, setting up for a perfect exit onto the main straight. The drag race is ours, and so is P24. Next up, a McLaren braking way too early at the toe of the boot. We close the gap and manage to get a good exit to take a peek on the inside. We race up the hill, both vying for the highly coveted 23rd position. They overcompensate by braking way too late into the next corner. P23, thank you very much. By the end of the next back straight, we've caught a Camaro. Now, as my therapist always says, never trust a Camaro driver. This one lives up to the stereotype, having been involved in the disastrous crash in lap 1. And now this tricky chicane takes even more lives, as there is contact between the two cars in front and the Alpine departs the track onto the runoff area. We inherit P22 without even breaking a sweat. After not too long, we see the Chevy taking the S's a bit wide, and with some slipstream magic, we're side by side heading into the bus stop. Thankfully, they yield and we grab P21. Ahead is a cluster of cars ripe for the picking. First on the menu, an Aston Martin. They brake early into turn 9, practically rolling out a red carpet for our overtake. Next, we close in on a Mercedes that previously sent the Alpine packing. Through the S's, we're side by side with the Merc, but we have to back off, just to avoid turning it into a demolition derby. By the time we reach the boot, another opportunity arises, as the car ahead poaches its exit out of turn 6, and we get a chance to follow the Mercedes on the inside line on turn 8. After turn 10, we're so close to the Merc in front, we can almost touch their bumper. What that means, of course, is that we have to pull out the best tool in our toolbox, the good old switcheroo. The next few overtakes are a mix of cautious patience and sheer determination. A Porsche struggles out of turn 6, handing us P17. The Merc in P16 is struggling a bit, and in turn 10 they have a severe case of missing the apex, so we happily get on the inside and get the move done on the final turn. Taking the bus stop side by side with the Camaro, we are both very respectful to each other. We have a better track position though, and we capitalize on turn 5's inside line to nab P15. By the time we're on the main straight, we've gained on the Aston Martin in front. Time to see if any good overtaking opportunities arise. We get a fairly good run out of turn 1, but have to lift a little before entering the S's. The Aston seems not to care a lot about apexes, so we have some hope of gaining on the straight. We're not really close enough to think about a move yet, but the Aston brakes so early, we're left with a nice and wide gap into the bus stop, giving us P14. Another Aston Martin is all kinds of squarely on the exit, so another easy pass for us right away. By this point, we're in full warpath mode, climbing 12 spots since our formation lap blunder, but the gap to P13 is a daunting 10 seconds. With no immediate targets, we focus on laying down clean laps and gaining experience. As we approach the final lap, the McLaren in P12 comes into view. They are slow through the bus stop, but it's too tight to make a move. They take a wide entry into turn 5 and we try to squeeze in on the inside, putting two wheels on the grass. Appreciate the cautious driving from the McLaren as well, of course. Turn 6, however, spells disaster for them, as it has for so many drivers before, and we get an overtake on the following straight. Closing in on the finish, let's reflect on the race. Number 1, know your spot on the formation lap. It's not that hard. Number 2, passing cars in the back was surprisingly fun. Now I understand the draw of last to first challenges that people like so much. And number 3, my pit entry, I'm not too happy about it. I think mapping my blinkers to the wheel and indicating would have helped signal my intentions to the car behind much better. In the end, we finished P12. Not much glory in terms of elo, but a clean race and a nice boost to our safety rating. Not bad for a recovery drive. The stage is set for race 2, a tense night race, but before we dive into the action, here's a pro tip I picked up last week. High beams in ACC can drastically improve your visibility at night. Some cars have them, but not all GT4s are blessed with this feature. To find the right livery, just cycle through the lights. Those equipped with high beams will stand out. Ah, now that's much better. We set a personal best lap in qualifying, clocking in at 1:54.190. A solid time, but with some seriously quick drivers in the lobby, it places us in P6. Not bad at all. Now lights out and it's go, go, go. Turn 1 is clean and we hold on to P6 as the field charges through the S's. Heading into the bus stop, chaos erupts. Two McLarens battle side by side for P1, but only one emerges unscathed. We take a good lane through the mess, but can't quite stick it around the outside of turn 5. A Mercedes looms behind, sniffing an opportunity. They give a little peek on the outside, but botch their exit, inviting an Aston Martin into the fray. Right after, the Aston dives in aggressively but overshoots the braking point, handing the position back to the Mercedes. This gives us a momentary breather to focus on the group ahead. We manage to stick with the group ahead for about a lap, before they inevitably start pulling away. Meanwhile, the black and green Merc is glued to our bumper. They avoid a too wide move into the bus stop but carry more speed into turn 5, resulting in contact. Luckily for us, years of binge watching Initial D pays off here. We save the car and keep racing. As we notice in this race, visibility becomes a bit of an issue as cars kick up dirt through the bus stop. So naturally, we decide to utilize this strategy and throw up as much dust as possible. Whether it's the dirt or some damage from the earlier bump, the Merc starts to fall back slightly. After some time, a back marker appears, but they move aside efficiently, so that's much appreciated. For several laps now, the gap behind has held steady at around 2 seconds, and with around 6.5 minutes remaining, the nerves start creeping in. I completely miss my braking marker into turn 1, run very wide, and lose a position. Heading up the S's, I can feel the pace slipping. The Aston is able to capitalize on that as well, moving past with ease. Frustratingly, I repeat the same mistake on the next lap. This time, I narrowly avoid hitting the cars ahead and take what could only be called a very suboptimal line through turn 1. With my therapist on speed dial, I wish this race would just end already. With 2 minutes left in the race, P8 begins to close in as well, sensing blood in the water. At turn 6, my braking marker vanishes yet again, and I lose time, allowing the McLaren behind to line up for an attack. We defend into turn 7, forcing them wide, but their straight line speed is still threatening. The final corners are tense, but we manage to hold them off for now. Braking cleanly into turn 1 for the first time in what feels like forever, we regain some composure. The McLaren does close the gap slightly, but we find better traction through the bus stop and the carousel. We cross the line in P7, car intact, but the nerves shattered. I need a drink. Here's a recurring theme in our racing journey: qualifying higher than we can deliver. This time around, we have somehow secured P2, a spot that doesn't feel like our natural habitat yet. The drivers around us are highly ranked, so I remind myself not to overcommit in battles. The lights go green and we're off. It's not the best of starts. The McLaren in P3 pulls alongside and we go side by side through the first few corners. It's clean and close racing, but their superior straight line speed gives them the edge. Behind us, the Alpine is lurking, but for now, our focus is on sticking with the leaders to build a bit of a gap to the rest of the field. The plan actually works, for a while, but as expected, the cars ahead gradually pull away, and the Alpine grows bolder. What follows next is a relentless assault. For several laps, the Alpine attacks at every opportunity. My hat is off to them. It's bumper-to-bumper racing, but never reckless. Eventually, of course, the inevitable happens. A 3-turn sequence of precision gives them the upper hand. Here's how it went down. Turn 6. We go wide, clipping the grass and losing some momentum. The Alpine pulls alongside. Turn 7. They attempt the outside and we defend very narrowly, keeping them at bay. Turn 8. We are side by side again, but their wider exit gives them the inside for turn 9. The pass is clean and decisive. From here on out, the Alpine pulls away steadily, while we extend our gap to the car behind. The final laps are uneventful on our end, but the real drama unfolds ahead. The Alpine catches up to the McLaren in P2, leading to a thrilling last lap battle. Going into the last few turns, the McLaren goes wide in turn 10, seemingly handing the position to the Alpine. But in the final corner, the Alpine slides, turning it into a drag race to the finish. The McLaren barely edges out a victory, making all of their 8 cylinders work overtime. Now, despite losing 2 positions, this race really stands out as the best GT4 experience yet. It's a testament to clean, competitive racing and a humbling lesson in defense. But let's not get too optimistic. As we'll soon find out in race 4, the light at the end of the tunnel might just be a train. This one is best described as a disaster wrapped in a storm. Let me start by clearing the air. Yes, I did practice in the rain. I even ran a 1-hour race against the AI to prepare. So, it came as a bit of a surprise when during the quali, my tires decided they wanted to spend their vacation in Mordor. Now, that never happened in practice, so I thought just dial down the pressures and that should fix the temperature issue as well. As it turned out, the pressures were not the issue, and the race would turn out to be a bit of a struggle. Still, we qualified decently in P6, of course surrounded by quicker drivers. Knowing my rain experience wasn't stellar, I set a modest goal, a top 10 finish. It's green, 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 and we're off. But the launch is less than stellar. Cars from behind start closing in, and I decide it's better to play it safe, sticking it to the outside and letting a few past. clean through turn 1, up the S's, and a single file procession through the bus stop. So far so good. As we settle into lap 1, I feel cautiously optimistic. The gaps ahead and behind are reasonable, and I think we can have a quiet race. But then, as we feared before, the tires start getting toasty, and the optimism begins to evaporate. By lap 2, the front left is officially cooked, yet somehow we've caught the pack ahead. On the straight, I spot a chance to make a move in the bus stop. I go side by side with an Alpine, giving enough room, but they defend beautifully and stay ahead. No regrets, this is racing. But that little skirmish closes the gap to the car behind. Not too long after, I take turn 9 too wide, allowing the Alpine behind to dive inside. By turn 10, I concede the position. It's just not worth the risk. Coming up on the bus stop, this time we're on the left and hope to retake P8. Unfortunately, I turn in just a touch too early and it's contact. The other car escapes unscathed, but we keep it off the throttle, not wanting to cross the track and plow into one of those magnificent Mercs behind. Having lost quite a bit of speed, we let the third Mercedes pass us as well. The laps tick by, the tires are screaming, and we're fighting just to survive. We eventually claw back a position after a clean move on the back straight. But the next duel is a Porsche looming large in the rearview mirror. The Porsche driver is quick, flashing their lights as a polite reminder of their intentions. No blue flag, no yielding though. In this instance, we decide to defend. If they are quicker, they need to do a clean overtake, and that's that. We're racing for position after all. In hindsight though, I should have just let them go. Our tires don't give in to our demands on turn 1, and we get collected by the car behind. A few drivers use the opportunity to go past, and the Porsche elects to wait and let us pass, which I appreciate. Another friendly flash of the lights, just to remind us that they are indeed the quicker car, and we start to consider letting them past. I get a pretty poor turn 9, and they're all over me. Realizing I'm just wasting both of our time, I lift early to let them by on turn 10. The next time we're approaching turn 1, both of us have the same idea of exploring the less visited places of the track. As we take this immensely wide line, we give an opportunity to another Porsche to gain an easy position. We don't really fall behind that much, even with the tires, the rain and our nerves conspiring against us. If we had some consistency, the pace wouldn't actually be that bad. With about 5 minutes left in the race, we see an Alpine parked outside turn 11 and everybody waves as they go past. Down the main straight, and for once, braking in time for turn 1, we see another car parked up, and thus the second position gained just by not spinning. In addition to that, there's an extremely slow Mercedes crawling up the S's, so we get another easy position and we're up to P12 now. Fast forward a few laps and the 3 cars ahead have been fighting a lot. Turn 1, as it often happens in the rain here, makes 2 of them go wide, and we're able to capitalize on that, gaining P11 from the black Alpine. In the last turn, they do a bit of a Drift King impression and the pressure is off our back. With this exhausting race done, my tires are officially writing angry letters to my race engineer. Lesson learned. Time to finally dial in that wet setup. And that wraps up one chaotic week at Watkins Glen. Rain, night races, clean battles, and a ton of learning. It's hard to ask for more from a single week of racing. We had some wins, a few losses, but most importantly, we came out with a big chunk of experience. Our ELO and safety rating got a small boost, so all in all, I would call this a success. Join me next week as we head to Italia
Grazie.
for pizza, pasta, and some spicy GT4 action. Until then, take care and I'll see you on the track.